My name is Donna Atwood, and I'm 33. I came home from a 16-hour double shift at the hospital, and my daughter's bedroom was empty. Lily is 7. Her bed was gone. Half the stars we painted on her ceiling had been rolled over in gray primer. For a few seconds I stood in the hallway and thought something terrible had happened to her. Then I understood. She hadn't gone missing. She had been moved out, like a couch nobody wanted. My mother stood in the doorway with her arms folded. We voted. She did not unfold her arms. You don't get a say. My sister was already taping a box shut with Lily's name written on the side. I did not raise my voice. I never do. But what I said on the kitchen table 40 minutes later made all three of them go pale. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. We tell quiet stories about ordinary people who hold their ground without ever raising their voice. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. Let me back up 3 days, because the empty room didn't come out of nowhere. I have been a nurse for 8 years. Most of those years were nights. Nights pay a little more, and a little more was the whole plan. I saved every spare dollar in a credit union account I never touched. 2 years ago, that account became a small brick house on Coldwater Lane with a crooked porch and a kitchen from 1980-something. It was mine. The first thing that had ever been only mine. The second week we lived there, Lily asked if the ceiling could be the sky. So we bought glow paint and a bag of stick-on stars, and we spent a Sunday on a stepladder making our own constellations. She named one after our cat. She named another after me. When the lights went out, the whole room turned soft and blue, and she would whisper goodnight to each star like they could hear her. That was the room. That was the ceiling. 3 years ago, before the house, my father had open-heart surgery. He came through it, thank God, but the recovery was long, and money was tight, and my mother asked if they could stay with me just until Dad's back on his feet. My younger sister Brooke came too, because Brooke always came too. Just until. Those are dangerous words. Dad got back on his feet. Then he got back into his recliner. 3 years passed, and nobody ever talked about leaving. By the time I bought Coldwater Lane, the three of them simply moved in with me, the way water moves into a low spot. I let it happen. I was busy keeping a small girl alive, and fed and loved. That was my first mistake. Here is how a house stops being yours without anyone signing anything. It starts with the coffee. My mother rearranged my cabinets the first week, so the mugs were where she liked them. Then the calendar on the fridge became her calendar. Then the good chair at the dinner table became my father's chair, and you learn not to sit in it. By the second year, my mother had a word she used for everything: family. We don't keep score in this family, she would say, while keeping score. We share everything in this family, she would say, sharing my groceries. She said it the way some people say a prayer, like the words themselves made a thing true. And I let her, because correcting her cost energy I did not have. After a 13-hour shift, you do not pick a fight about mugs. Brooke was 29 and trying to be famous. She had a ring light, a tripod, and a phone full of videos nobody watched. Wellness, she called it. Home and harmony. She filmed herself folding towels and talking about intention. The account had 400 followers, and 3 of them were my mother's bridge friends. Brooke needed a real space. She said that a lot. A real space to film. A real space to grow the brand. She would look around the small house when she said it, the way a person looks at a parking spot they intend to take. My father said almost nothing. He watched his shows and let my mother speak for him. He had become a man-shaped silence in a recliner. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that for 3 years. Lily and I had our room of stars. I thought, at least, that was safe. The Tuesday before the double shift, we had spaghetti for dinner. That detail stuck with me. Spaghetti, garlic bread, a normal Tuesday. Brooke set down her fork and said it like a weather report. I've been thinking about the studio thing. My mother nodded before Brooke even finished, the way you nod at a plan you already know. I just need a real space. Brooke spread her hands like it was the most reasonable thing. Good light, a door that closes. Her eyes drifted down the hall, toward the only door that mattered to me. That's Lily's room. I kept my voice flat. It's a big room for one little kid, Brooke said. And she's barely in it during the day. Lily was right there, building a fort out of couch cushions, pretending not to listen. Children always listen. She's 7. I set my glass down. She's supposed to be at school during the day. My mother folded her napkin into a neat square. Donna, nobody's deciding anything tonight. We're just talking as a family. There it was again. Family. The word that always came right before someone took something. I kept my voice level. The answer is no. It's her room. Brooke rolled her eyes and looked at our mother, and our mother gave her a small, patient smile. The smile said, "Don't worry." The smile said, "Leave it to me." I should have understood that smile. I was tired and I missed it. Later, I tucked Lily in. She held Biscuit, the gray stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was 2, missing one button eye. "Mama, can we add more stars when you're home?" she asked. "Of course, baby." I traced one of the painted stars above her bed. "All the stars you want." She fell asleep under our painted sky. I had a double shift the next day. I kissed her head and went to pack my bag. Morning came too early, the way it always does after a short night. I worked at St. Brigid's, the regional hospital 20 minutes up Route 9. A double shift meant I'd leave before Lily woke and come home after she slept. I hated those days. I worked them anyway, because the mortgage did not care how I felt. I got dressed in the dark. My badge hung on its blue lanyard by the door, where it always hung. Donna Atwood, RN. I put it over my head, and the little laminated card settled against my chest like it weighed something. Lily woke up just enough to find me before I left. She padded into the kitchen in her socks, hair everywhere, Biscuit dangling from one hand. "Are you working the long one?" she asked. "The long one. But Grandma will get you from school." She wrapped both arms around my waist and squeezed. "Paint more stars when you're home, Mama," she said into my scrubs. "I promise." I kissed the top of her head. "Be good. I love you to the moon." To the moon and the dog star. That was our thing. I left at 6:15. The sky was the color of dishwater. I remember the house in my mirror, small and quiet, my whole world asleep inside it. By noon, my phone started buzzing in my locker. I couldn't answer it. I was in a trauma bay with a man whose heart was trying to quit, and there is no pausing that. Buzz, buzz, buzz. 3 calls from my mother. 2 texts from Brooke. One from a number I didn't know. I told myself it could wait 1 more hour. People who don't work in hospitals don't understand. Some hours you simply cannot have your phone. That hour cost me. We lost the man with the failing heart, and then we got him back. Twice. By the time he was stable and upstairs, 2 hours had gone by, and my hands were still shaking the good kind of shake, the kind that means you did the work right. That is who I am, when nobody is voting on me. I am steady. I am the calm in the loud room. It is the one thing I have always known how to be. Renata found me at the supply station refilling my pockets. She's the charge nurse, 61, gray braid, no patience for nonsense. She has buried 2 husbands and raised 4 kids and seen everything twice. "You look like a woman whose phone won't stop." Renata did not look up from the chart. "My family, probably about a room." "Family?" Renata repeated, and she made the word sound like a diagnosis. "Eat something before you call them back. You can't pour from an empty pot." I laughed, because she was right. I ate a granola bar standing up. In the back of my mind, there was a folder. It lived in the bottom drawer of my dresser, a plain manila folder with my closing papers in it. The deed, the mortgage, the survey of the lot. I'd looked at it exactly once since the day I signed, the night I bought the house, when I sat on the bare floor and cried because the thing was finally mine. I didn't know yet that I would need it. I only thought of it the way you think of a fire extinguisher. Good to have. Hope you never do. I clocked the buzzing phone in my locker as a problem for later. Later came at 9:40 that night, when I pulled into my own driveway, and saw every light in the house burning. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the house smelled like fresh paint and packing tape. I walked down the hall to Lily's room and stopped in the doorway. Her bed was gone. Her dresser was gone. Half the ceiling, our sky, was streaked with gray primaire, the stars drowning under it. Brooke knelt in the middle of the floor with a tape gun, sealing a box marked Lily in black marker. A ring light stood in the corner, already plugged in, already glowing. "Where is my daughter?" My voice was very quiet. People who know me know that's the dangerous one. My mother appeared behind me in the hall, arms folded, chin up. "She's with her father for a few days," she said. "She's fine. Travis hasn't seen her in 5 months. He's still her father." My mother lifted her chin a little higher. "We talked it over. All of us. We voted. You don't get a say." "We voted. You don't get a say." I have replayed those 8 words more times than I can count. Said in my own hallway, about my own child, in front of my own daughter's boxed-up life. Brooke didn't even look up from her tape gun. "It's actually a really good room for filming. The light's amazing in the afternoon." I looked at the gray streaks where the stars used to be. I looked at the box with my child's name on it. I felt something in my chest go cold and clear and very, very still. People expect a mother to scream here, to throw something, to melt down. I didn't. I set my keys on the dresser that was no longer there, caught myself, and set them on the windowsill instead. "Okay, tell me exactly what you all decided." Here is a thing I learned in the trauma bay. When everything is on fire, you slow down. You ask questions. You find out what is actually true before you touch anything. So I did not scream. I asked, "When did Lily leave?" "This afternoon," my mother said. "Right after school. Travis picked her up." "Did anyone call me?" "We tried. You didn't answer." She said it like the missed calls were proof of something, like a working mother who can't answer at noon had already lost the argument. "What did you tell Travis?" A small pause. The first crack. "That you needed a break," my mother said. "That you were overwhelmed and asked if he could take her a few days." "I never asked that." "Well," she smoothed her sleeve. "Somebody had to think of the practical side." The practical side. The practical side was my 7-year-old in a car with a man she barely remembered because 3 adults in my house wanted a bedroom. "And the room?" Brooke finally looked up. "We figured while she's gone, we'd just get it set up. Easier than doing it around her." "While she's gone?" I repeated. "We're a family." My mother spread her hands. "We make decisions together. You've been so busy, Donna. We were trying to help." I looked at the 3 of them. My mother, certain. My sister, impatient. My father, somewhere in the living room, saying nothing, as usual. I did not feel rage, exactly. Rage is hot and fast and stupid. What I felt was colder. It was the feeling of a door closing somewhere deep, very softly, and locking. "Okay." The word came out flat. "Thank you for explaining." Then I picked up biscuit from the half-packed box, walked to my car, and called the only number that mattered. Travis answered on the second ring, which surprised me. "Donna," he said. "Hey, I was going to call you." In the background, I heard a television and the small, specific sound of my daughter not talking. Lily talks constantly when she's happy. Silence from her is a fire alarm. "Put Lily on in a minute. First, tell me what my mother told you." He sighed. "Travis is not a bad man. He is a tired, checked-out man who left when Lily was 2 and sends a card on her birthday most years. That is its own kind of failure. But it isn't cruelty." "Your mom called this morning," he said. "Said you were burned out. Said you needed a few days and asked if I'd take Lily. She made it sound like you set it up." "I didn't set anything up." There was a long pause. "I figured something was off," he admitted. "Lily cried the whole drive. Kept asking when you were coming. I didn't know what to tell her." I closed my eyes and breathed the way I teach scared patients to breathe. In for 4. Hold. Out for 4. "It's not your fault," I said. And I meant it. "You were lied to." I'm going to come get her. Tonight, if you'll let me. Course, he said, relief leaking into his voice. Honestly, Donna, I love her, but I can't do full time. I'm not set up for it. I never was. At least he was honest. My mother had handed my child to the one person who'd already told everyone he couldn't keep her and called it the practical side. Before we settle in, take a quiet look at the description. A small part of what you'll find there helps keep this channel quietly running, and it means more than you know. Let me talk to her. I heard him call her name. I heard small feet. And then my daughter's voice, wobbling. Mama? Hi, baby, I said, and I kept my voice as warm and ordinary as bathwater. I hear you're having a sleepover at Daddy's. I don't want a sleepover, Lily said. I want to come home. They put Biscuit in a box. I've got Biscuit right here. He's safe. He's sitting in my lap in the car, and he misses you. Are you coming? I'm coming right now. I'm putting on my seatbelt this second. Can you hear it? I clicked the buckle next to the phone. A small, watery laugh. Yeah. 45 minutes. Pack your backpack. Brush your teeth. I'll be there before you finish a single show. Okay. A pause. Mama, why did Grandma make me leave? There are questions you cannot answer honestly to a 7-year-old. You cannot say, because your aunt wanted to film towels in your bedroom, and your grandmother thinks the house is a country she's president of. So I said the truest small thing I could. Grandma made a mistake. Grown-ups make mistakes too. I'm going to fix it. That's my job, okay? Fixing things is my job. Okay, Mama. To the moon. And the dog star, she whispered. I hung up, set Biscuit gently on the passenger seat, and sat for 1 minute in my dark driveway with my hands at 10 and 2. A lot of people, right here, would have stormed back inside, would have shouted, would have given my mother the explosion she could later describe to the neighbors as proof that I was unstable, dramatic, the difficult daughter. I didn't give her that. I never give them that. I put the car in reverse and went to get my girl. I want to pause the story here for a second because if you've ever been the calm one in a loud family, this part is for you. For years, I believed that keeping the peace was the same as keeping my dignity, that if I never raised my voice, never made a scene, I was winning by being the bigger person. If you've ever swallowed your own no to keep a dinner table quiet, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I read them all. And if these calm revenge stories are your kind of medicine, subscribe, because I post a new one every week. Now, back to that driveway. Before I'd backed all the way out, my mother came onto the porch. She didn't look worried. She looked annoyed, the way you look at a kid making a fuss in a store. Where are you going? She called. To get my daughter. Donna, you're overreacting. She's perfectly fine. She's been crying for 6 hours. My mother waved that away with one hand. Children cry. You're going to drag her back here and confuse her. We made a sensible decision as a family. You keep saying family like it's a vote you're allowed to win. It is. She crossed her arms. 4 of us, 1 of you. That's how votes work, honey. 4 of us, 1 of you. She actually counted. She counted my father's silence, and my absent ex and my sister's ambition as votes against my own child. I didn't argue the math. Arguing the math was what she wanted. We'll talk when I'm back, I said, and I drove away while she was still mid-sentence, which I have found is the most peaceful way to end most conversations with my mother. The drive to Travis's gave me 45 minutes to think, and thinking is something I'm good at when my hands are busy. Here's what I knew. My mother believed she had power. She did not. Belief and power are not the same thing, though a confident person can fake the difference for a long time. What did she actually have? Nothing on paper. She paid no rent. She had signed nothing. She was a guest who'd forgotten she was a guest, the way a long-term guest does, until the day they start voting on your furniture. What did I have? I had a manila folder in the bottom drawer of my dresser. When I got to Travis's, Lily ran out before I'd even parked, backpack bouncing, and threw herself into me so hard I staggered. I held her on the sidewalk for a long time. Travis stood in the doorway looking guilty and relieved at once. He carried her bag to the car without being asked, which was the most fatherly thing he'd done in years. "I'm sorry," he said, "for believing it. I know. Take her to the zoo sometime. On purpose. Not because someone tricked you into it." He almost smiled. "Yeah. Okay." On the drive home, Lily fell asleep before we hit the highway, biscuit tucked under her chin. I drove with one hand and held her sock foot with the other. That's when the plan finished forming. Not a fight. I am bad at fights, and I find them undignified. What I was going to give my family was a correction. Quiet, complete, and impossible to vote against. But first I needed to know exactly where I stood. And for that, I needed to make a phone call I'd never imagined making about my own mother. I carried Lily inside at 11 that night and put her to sleep in my own bed, since hers no longer existed. She didn't wake. I stood in the doorway of her stripped room for a while, looking at the gray ghosts of our stars. In the morning, the house performed normal at me. My mother made pancakes, as if pancakes were an apology that didn't require words. Brooke scrolled her phone. My father read the back of the syrup bottle. Then my mother slid something across the counter while I poured coffee. A glossy brochure. A bank logo. "I've been looking into things," she said brightly. "Did you know with everyone's income we could refinance? Get the whole family on equal footing. Make it official that we're all in this together." I set down the pot very carefully. "Refinance whose house?" "Our house, Donna. This house." She smiled. "It's silly that it's all on you. What if something happened to you? Where would we be?" So that was the real shape of it. Not just a room, a foothold, a name on a paper. "And the studio?" I asked, keeping my tone like weak tea. Brooke perked up. "Oh, that's happening Saturday. I invited some collaborators for the reveal. A photographer's coming. It's going to be a whole launch." "Saturday." "Saturday," my mother confirmed, pleased that I seemed to be coming around. "It'll be lovely. Mrs. Okafor's stopping by too. I told her all about Brooke's brand." I nodded slowly, like a woman absorbing a plan she might agree to. Inside, I was making a list. Saturday, witnesses, a photographer, a neighbor. If they wanted an audience, I thought, an audience is exactly what this should have. I just had to make a couple of calls first. The thing that turned my stomach to stone was sitting on the kitchen counter the next afternoon, plugged in and unlocked. Brooke's tablet. She'd left it charging while she ran to buy backdrop fabric, the screen still glowing on a group chat. I am not a snoop. But the chat was named, in cheerful letters, Atwood House, with a little house emoji. And I was not in it. My mother was in it. My father was in it. Brooke was in it. Even my Aunt Carol, 2 states away, was in it. Everyone named Atwood except the Atwood whose name was on the door. I read it standing up, and the floor felt a long way down. It went back 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Messages about the room before that spaghetti dinner where they pretended to be just talking. Messages working out how to handle Donna. My mother had written, word for word, "We'll just present it as a family vote. She won't fight the whole family. She never does. She never does." My own mother knew my calm the way a hunter knows a deer trail. She had counted on it. My silence wasn't peace. To them, it was a green light. There was more. A photo my mother had sent of a printed document, propped on this same counter. A quitclaim deed form, half filled out, with a sticky note. "Get Dee to sign. Tell her it's for the fire insurance." For the fire insurance. She'd written a script to trick me out of my own house. I did not cry. I did not throw the tablet. I took out my own phone and photographed the screen. Every message, the deed form, all of it. Then I set the tablet back exactly where it had been, glowing, innocent. Then I texted Renata one line. "I need the name of that lawyer." That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat on the floor of my closet, which is the one place in the house that locks, and I let myself feel it for exactly 10 minutes. 6 weeks. They had spent 6 weeks planning how to move my child out and themselves further in, and they had built the whole plan on me being too gentle to stop them. The betrayal wasn't the room. The room was just where it became visible. The betrayal was older. The betrayal was that they had studied my kindness and decided it was a weakness they could farm. When the 10 minutes were up, I stood, washed my face, and got practical. Practical is my native language. It's just that I'd been speaking everyone else's for 3 years. I made a list, the way I do at work when a patient is crashing and panic isn't an option. 1. Get Lily safe and stable. Done. She was home, in my bed, under what was left of the stars. 2. Find out exactly what the law said. Belief versus power. I needed to know which one I actually held. 3. Do nothing visible until I knew. That was the hardest one. Every cell in me wanted to march out and confront them. But confrontation without footing is just noise, and they were experts at turning my noise into a story about poor, unstable Donna. Renata texted back a name and a number. Property and family. She's a pit bull in pearls. Tell her I sent you. I saved the contact. Patricia Vance, attorney. I looked at the name for a long moment. Then I looked through the wall, toward the room where my mother slept, certain she had already won. You don't get a say, she'd told me. We would see about that. I called Patricia Vance on my lunch break the next day, sitting in my car in the hospital lot with the windows up. I told her the whole thing, plainly, the way I give report at shift change. The house. The deed in my name only. The parents and sister who paid no rent, signed no lease, and had lived with me for 3 years. The vote. The child sent to her father without my consent. The group chat. The quitclaim form and the fire insurance lie. She was quiet while I talked. Then she asked 3 questions. Your name and only your name is on the deed and the mortgage? Only mine. They've never paid you rent? No written agreement? Nothing? Nothing. Not $1. And the child? You have sole legal custody? Sole custody. Her father has visitation he almost never uses. I heard her pen moving. All right. Then here is the truth, and I want you to hold on to it. A family vote has no legal weight. None. You could hold a vote about who owns the moon. It would mean exactly as much. I let out a breath I think I'd been holding for 3 years. Legally, she went on, your parents and sister are what we call licensees, guests you've allowed to stay. You can withdraw that permission. With proper written notice, they can be required to leave, and no grandparent on earth gets to decide where your child sleeps. They handed her off to her father based on a lie. That alone is serious. So, I'm not crazy, I said quietly. You're not crazy. You're the only adult in that house with any actual standing. A pause. Do you want to do this loud, or do you want to do this right? Right. Always right. Good, said Patricia Vance. Then let's get some papers in order. Lily woke up the next morning in my bed and forgot, for about 4 seconds, that anything was wrong. Then she remembered. Can I see my room? She asked. I'd hoped to fix it before she looked. I hadn't gotten the chance. Let's look together, I said, because hiding a hard thing from a child just teaches them that hard things are shameful. We stood in the doorway. The bed, gone. The dresser, gone. Brooke's ring light in the corner like a cold little moon. And the ceiling, our sky, half swallowed by gray primer. In the places where the stick-on stars had been peeled off in a hurry, the paint had torn, leaving pale ghost shapes where stars used to be. Lily was very quiet. Then she pointed up. You can still see where they were, she whispered. The stars left a mark. I knelt down and held her. They sure did. My voice did not shake because I would not let it. You know what? Marks like that mean something was really there. Something good. And good things can come back. Promise? I promise. I'm going to bring back every single star. She nodded against my shoulder, believing me, because I have never once broken a promise to her, and I was not about to start. Over her head, I looked at those torn paint scars on the ceiling, and I made myself a different kind of promise. Not loud, not cruel, but complete. Whoever did this to a 7-year-old's painted sky was going to learn the difference between a family and a household they happened to live in, and they were going to learn it on a Saturday, in front of company. I tucked Lily's hair behind her ear and stood up. Pancakes, then we planned stars. My mother caught me in the kitchen while Lily watched cartoons. I see you brought her back, she said, in the tone you'd use about a returned library book. She lives here. I did not stop wiping the counter. She's 7. This is her home. You undermined the whole family in front of Travis. My mother set a plate down hard. Do you know how that makes us look? How it makes you look, I said, isn't really my project anymore. She didn't catch the shift in that sentence. She was too busy being right. The studio is still happening Saturday, she said. Brooks worked very hard. I expect you to be gracious. People are coming. People are coming, I repeated. The Hendersons, Mrs. Okafor, Brooks' photographer, and 2 of her, brand people. She fluffed her hair. It's a real opportunity for her. Don't ruin it with one of your moods. One of my moods. I have one mood. It is called staying calm while being robbed. I wouldn't dream of ruining Saturday, I said, and that, at least, was completely true. Brooke wandered in. You're not going to be weird about the room, right? The light's already set up. It'd be a pain to move. I won't move your light, Brooke. I would, in fact, not move her light. I would let her move it herself, into a rental truck. But she didn't need that information yet. My mother smiled, satisfied, certain the storm had passed. She read my calm the way she always had, as surrender. Good. I knew you'd see sense. We're a family. There was that word again. The last time, I promise, that she would get to use it on me like a leash. We'll talk Saturday. I spent the week being the most pleasant version of myself anyone in that house had ever met. I made coffee. I complimented Brooke's backdrop fabric. I asked my mother about the refinance brochure with what looked like real interest, and I let her explain it to me twice, nodding, gathering string. Meanwhile, in my car, on my breaks, in the locked closet at night, I worked with Patricia Vance. She drafted 3 notices to vacate, 1 for each adult, written to the letter of Ohio law. 30 days, since none of them had ever paid rent and none could claim a lease. She had them reviewed, signed, dated, and then she did the part that mattered. On Thursday, a process server delivered them, and certified copies went out by mail with green return cards. I watched from the kitchen window as my mother collected the mail on Thursday afternoon. I watched her flip past the certified envelopes, frown at them, and drop all 3 in the basket by the door where she throws what she calls junk. She didn't open them. She was so sure nothing official could be aimed at her in my house that she filed her own eviction under junk mail. I also signed a petition, with Lily's name on it, to formalize what was already true on paper, so that no grandmother with a brochure could ever again decide where my daughter slept. Patricia called it belt and suspenders. I called it never again. Everything was filed. Everything was lawful. Everything was quiet. By Friday night, the only person in that house holding all the facts was me. I tucked Lily in on an air mattress in my room. She asked if Saturday was the star day. Saturday is the day everything gets fixed, I told her. You'll see. Let me step out of the story for one more moment, because I think somebody watching needs to hear this tonight. If your kindness has ever been treated as permission, this is what I learned the hard way. Being calm is not the same as being a doormat. The difference is a boundary. A doormat says yes to keep the peace. A calm person can say no, mean it completely, and never once raise her voice. If you've been confusing the two, like I did for 3 whole years, write the word boundary in the comments so I know you're out there. And if you want to see how this Saturday ended, stay with me, because we're almost there. Now, Friday turned into Saturday, the way it always does, whether you're ready or not. I woke before everyone. I drank my coffee at the counter in the quiet. Brooke's ring light glowed faintly down the hall through Lily's open door, already on, warming up for its big debut. I went to the bottom drawer of my dresser. I took out the plain manila folder. Inside, the deed. In my name only. The mortgage. In my name only. A copy of the 3 notices to vacate dated Thursday. The custody papers. And the photographs from Brooke's tablet, printed at the drugstore, including the quitclaim form and the message that said she never does. I squared the papers like I square a chart. Then I clipped my hospital badge to my collar, even though it was my day off, because some part of me wanted to walk into that room as exactly who I am. Donna Atwood, RN, the calm in the loud room. I heard the first car pull into the driveway at 10. The company had arrived. I should tell you about the night before, because of my father. Late Friday, after the house went dark, I'd slipped into Lily's stripped room with a small can of glow paint and a brush. I couldn't fix the whole sky yet, but I painted 1 star back. Just 1, over the bed that wasn't there, so that whatever happened Saturday, my daughter would have 1 star again. I was on the stepladder when my father appeared in the doorway in his robe. We looked at each other for a while. He hadn't spoken directly to me in days. "Your mother," he started, then stopped. He looked at the gray ceiling, the 1 torn star of fresh glow paint. "She wasn't always like this." "I know, Dad. After we lost the old house, in 2009, his voice was rough. She decided she'd never be nobody again. That if she just held the family tight enough, in her fist, nobody could take anything." He swallowed. "She holds too tight. I see it. I just got tired of fighting her." It was the most honest thing he'd said in 3 years. For a second, I thought he might say the next thing. The thing where he stood up. Where he told her she was wrong. Where he became my father again. He didn't. "Don't make a scene tomorrow," he said instead, and shuffled back to bed. So that was my father. A man who could see the truth perfectly and still chose the recliner. I don't hate him for it. I just stopped waiting for him. I finished my 1 star and climbed down. It glowed faint and lonely on the ruined ceiling. 1 star, I thought. It's a start. Tomorrow I get the rest of the sky back. By 10:30, my small house was full of strangers being polite. Brooke had 2 collaborators, women about her age with careful hair and ring light tans, and a photographer named Devin who kept checking the light through his fingers like a frame. Mrs. Okafor from next door came in her church clothes, holding a foil-covered dish, because that is what good neighbors do when they're invited to something they don't fully understand. My mother was radiant. She moved through the little crowd like a hostess at a gallery opening, 1 hand on Brooke's shoulder, telling everyone about the family's new creative space. My father sat in his chair in a clean shirt. Lily stayed close to my leg, biscuit under her arm, watching all these adults fill up her house. "There she is," my mother said when she saw me. Her smile had an edge. "Donna's been so supportive. Wouldn't miss it." I had the manila folder under my arm, flat against my side, the way you carry something you don't want noticed yet. Devin sat up near the doorway of Lily's room, framing the ring light and the half-primed wall. One of the brand women cooed about the natural light. Mrs. Okafor stood a little apart, sensing, the way older women do, that the air in the room didn't match the smiles. "Should we do a little toast?" my mother announced, lifting a glass of sparkling cider. "To Brooke, and to new beginnings, and to family doing big things together." Glasses went up, polite murmurs. I did not lift a glass. I stepped into the middle of the room, set my badge straight with 2 fingers, and spoke in my ordinary, indoor, trauma bay voice. "Before the toast," I said, "can I ask Mom to explain 1 thing for our guests?" The room turned to look at me. My mother's smile held, but her eyes sharpened. "Of course, honey," she said, performing warmth for the company. "What is it?" "Earlier this week," I said, "you explained how the family made a decision about this room, about my daughter's bedroom. I want to make sure I understood it correctly, in front of everyone." A small silence. Devin lowered his camera. The brand women glanced at each other. "I don't think our guests need the details," my mother said lightly. "Oh, I think it's a lovely story about family." I smiled for the room. "You said you took a vote. Tell them how it went." I watched her decide. I watched her calculate that the confident move, the only move that fit the matriarch she played for the neighborhood, was to own it, to say it proudly. She had never once, in my whole life, backed down in front of an audience. She lifted her chin, exactly the way she had in the hallway. "We did take a vote," she said, to the room, smiling. "We're a close family. We make decisions together, all of us. And yes, we decided this room would serve the family better as Brooke's studio." She turned the smile on me, sweet as a knife. "Donna was outvoted, 4-1. She doesn't get a say in everything just because she's the oldest." There it was, out loud, in front of the photographer, the brand women, and Mrs. Okafor, who had gone very still by the wall. "We voted. You don't get a say." Now witnessed. "Thank you," I said softly. "I just wanted to be sure that's the version we're going with." Then I set the manila folder on the dining table, opened it, and took out the first piece of paper. I held up the first paper so the room could see it, the way you show a patient an X-ray, not a weapon, just a fact. "This is the deed to this house, recorded at the county 2 years ago. There is exactly one name on it." I let that sit. "Mine, Donna Atwood. No one else. Not my mother, not my father, not my sister." My mother laughed, a short, bright sound for the audience. "Well, of course it's in your name. You handled the paperwork. But it's the family's home." "It isn't, though." My voice stayed level. "A home isn't a feeling. Legally it's a deed, and the deed says me." "Donna!" A warning now, under the smile. "Not in front of company." "You wanted company," I said gently. "You invited a photographer to my house to film a room you took from my child. Company is exactly what we have." Devin was very carefully not pointing his camera at anyone. The brand women had stopped pretending to look at the light. Mrs. Okafor set her foil dish down on the side table, freeing both her hands, the way a person does when they realize they're a witness. "You always do this," my mother said, her voice climbing. "You make everything about ownership, about money, about you, after everything I've done for this family." "I'm not finished." I reached into the folder. "There's more than the deed." "Donna, stop this right now." She was loud now. The matriarch mask was slipping, the radiant hostess curdling into something hard. "I am your mother." "You are?" I agreed. "And I'm Lily's." Hold that thought. I took out the second set of papers and laid them in a neat row on the table, like a hand of cards I'd been holding all week. 3 envelopes, 3 notices, 1 for each of them. There was no vote. There's a deed. I said it quietly, and somehow the quiet made the room go quieter still. You can vote on where to go for dinner. You can vote on what to watch on TV. You can hold a vote about the weather if it makes you feel like a family. I tapped the deed once with 1 finger. But you cannot vote on a house with 1 name on it. And you cannot vote on my daughter. My mother stared at the deed like it might rearrange itself if she glared hard enough. "This is insane," she said. "We are blood. You can't put your own mother out on paper." "Let's talk about the paper." I picked up the 3 notices. "You got these on Thursday." I fanned the 3 notices like cards. "Certified mail. I watched you put them in the junk basket by the door without opening them. So let me read you the headlines." I held one up. "Notice to vacate. 30 days. Legally served. 1 for you, Mom. 1 for Dad. 1 for Brooke." The color started to leave my mother's face right then. I watched it go, the way you watch a monitor when a number starts to drop. "You can't evict family," she said, but it came out thin. "My lawyer says I can." Her words were, "A family vote has no legal weight, but a notice to vacate does." I set them back down. "You've never paid rent. You never signed a lease. In the eyes of the law, you're guests who were asked to stay and are now being asked to go. 30 days. It's already done." Brooke made a small sound, like the air going out of a float. "My launch," she whispered. "My collaborators are right here." "They are," I said, not unkindly. "They've been here for the whole thing." That was when my mother stopped performing and started detonating. After everything I gave up for this family, she shouted. The brand women flinched. I lost my house, my real house, do you understand? And I held us together with my bare hands while you went off and played nurse and felt sorry for yourself. And this is the thanks. Thrown into the street by my own ungrateful daughter. I did not raise my voice. This is the part I want you to see, if you take nothing else from this story. She got louder and I got quieter, and the quieter I got, the smaller her shouting looked in my house full of strangers. You didn't hold us together, Mom. I kept my hands loose at my sides. You moved into the one of us who got steady, and you called it togetherness. There's a difference. You will regret this, she hissed. When you're old and alone, you will remember that you chose a deed over your own mother. I'm choosing my daughter over a takeover, I said. Those aren't the same thing, no matter how many times you say family. My father, in his chair, looked at the floor. He had told me not to make a scene. I wasn't the one making it. And while we're being honest in front of everyone, I said, and reached into the folder one last time. There's a third thing I think Mrs. Okafor especially should see, since you've been telling her stories about me. Mrs. Okafor's eyebrows lifted. My mother went still. Some animal part of her sensed what was coming. Donna, she said, almost a whisper now. Don't. But she'd had no problem voting on my child in front of an audience, so I felt no need to protect her in front of one. I took out the last printed page, the quitclaim deed, half filled in her handwriting, with the sticky note still photographed in the corner. This is a quitclaim deed, I said, holding it up for the room. It's the form you fill out to put someone's name onto a property. My mother started filling one out 2 weeks ago, to add herself to my house. That's a private family matter, my mother said quickly, too quickly. It would have been, I agreed, if you hadn't photographed it for the group chat. The one I'm not in. The one named Atwood House. I looked at the brand women, at Devin, at the neighbor. She wrote a note to herself right here. It says, and I'm quoting, "Get Dee to sign. Tell her it's for the fire insurance." The room made a sound. Not a gasp exactly. The sound a room makes when it collectively decides whose side it's on. One of the brand women set down her cider and picked up her bag. "Brooke," she said carefully, "I think we're gonna head out." "No, wait, the shoot," Brooke said, panic cracking her voice. "We can still do the shoot. This is just family stuff. It's not about the brand." But Devin was already coiling his cable. The light went off. The cold little moon in Lily's room died. "It's a beautiful space," Devin said, to no one, the way people talk when they want to leave a room politely. "Good luck with everything." They filed out, the 2 women and the photographer, careful not to make eye contact with my mother, who stood in the middle of her gallery opening with nobody left to perform for. Mrs. Okafor was the last of the guests. She paused by me at the table. She looked at the deed, the notices, the quitclaim. Then she looked at Lily, half hidden behind my leg with her rabbit. "You painted that child's stars," she said quietly. "I remember. You hush now. You did right." She squeezed my arm and let herself out. Then it was just us. The family, so-called. Standing in the wreckage of a launch party, a torn ceiling down the hall, 3 opened futures on my dining table. My mother tried one more key in the lock, the oldest one. Tears. "How can you do this to me?" she wept. "I'm your mother. A daughter is supposed to take care of her mother." I let her cry. I didn't rush to fix it, the way I would have a year ago. I just waited until the worst of it passed, and then I said the thing I'd come to understand in a locked closet at midnight. "Mom, I think you got so scared of being nobody that you tried to make yourself the center of a house that isn't yours. I'm sorry you were ever that scared. I really am." I kept my voice soft. But being afraid doesn't give you a vote on my child's bedroom, and it never, ever gave you permission to send a 7-year-old away on a lie. "Brooke needed the room," she said weakly. "Brooke is 29. I did not raise my voice. Lily is 7. I will not strip a child to stage an adult's hobby. Not in my house. Not while I'm breathing. I crouched down to Lily's level and tucked her hair back. "This is my daughter," I said, looking up at all three of them. "She is not a line item. She is not a vote. Nobody in this family gets a say over where she sleeps, ever again. That part is finished." My father, finally, said something. "Maureen," he said, "sit down, it's over." And my mother, who had ruled that house with a word, looked around at the empty room, the dead light, the papers, and the three pale faces in the mirror over the buffet, and she had nothing left to say. That is the moment from the title. The one some of you have been waiting for. My parents and my sister went pale. Not because I'd shouted. I never shouted. They went pale because the story they had told themselves, the one where they were a family and I was a vote they could win, had just been replaced, calmly and completely, with a stack of paper that did not care how anyone felt. The deed didn't care that they were blood. The notices didn't care that my mother was scared. The law didn't care about the word family. And without that word as a weapon, the three of them were just three people standing in someone else's house with 30 days to find a new one. Brooke sank onto the arm of the couch and stared at her dead ring light. My mother sat where my father told her to, for once, her hands open and empty in her lap. My father looked older than his 64 years. I didn't gloat. There's no dignity in gloating, and dignity was the whole point. I'd held my ground without raising my voice, exactly the way I'd promised myself I would. I closed the manila folder. I left the papers on the table for them to read in their own time. Then I did the only thing that actually mattered. I picked up Biscuit from where he'd fallen by Lily's feet, brushed off his one-button eye, and handed him back to my daughter. "Come on, baby, let's go pick paint colors." She slipped her hand into mine, and we walked down the hall, past the cold dead light, into the room where one lonely star still glowed on a torn gray sky, waiting for the rest of them to come home. The 30 days went faster than you'd think. Brooke left first, within the week. One of the brand women had a spare room, and Brooke took it, hauling her ring light and her backdrop fabric out to a borrowed hatchback. The studio launch never happened. The two collaborators quietly unfollowed her, and the photographer's name never appeared next to hers again. A wellness brand built on harmony does not survive being filmed inside a takeover. My parents took the rest of the month. My mother spent it not speaking to me, which, honestly, was its own small mercy. On the last day, a cousin of hers came with a pickup truck, and they moved to her place 2 towns over. There was room there, the cousin said. Enough room. As they loaded the last box, my father stopped by the porch. He didn't apologize. He wasn't going to become a different man at 64. But he looked at me for a long moment, and he nodded. Once. Slow. "You did right, Donna," he said. The same words as the neighbor. Maybe the only true thing left in him. "Take care of yourself, Dad," I said, and I meant it. Then the truck pulled away, and the house was quiet in a way it hadn't been in 3 years. Not empty. Quiet. There's a difference. The same as there's a difference between a doormat and a calm woman. For the first time since I'd signed the deed, the house was actually mine. I changed the locks that afternoon. Not out of spite. Out of arithmetic. The old keys belonged to a house that no longer existed. The custody petition went through without a fight. On paper now, in ink, in a courthouse, the answer to who decides where Lily sleeps is one name. Mine. No vote can ever touch it again. And the ceiling. That first free weekend, Lily and I bought glow paint and a fresh bag of stars. We rolled clean white over the gray primer, and when it dried, we put the sky back, star by star. She named one after the cat again. She named one after me. We added a new one, just for that night, low near the window. "What's that one?" I asked. "That's the home star," she said. "So we always know where it is." Biscuit sat on her new bed and supervised. My mother called once, about a month later. She didn't apologize either. She said she'd forgiven me, which is a thing people say when they cannot say sorry. She asked when she could see Lily. I didn't slam the door. I'm not built that way, and Lily deserves grandparents who can earn their way back. "You can see her?" I did not soften it, and I did not sharpen it. Here, with me, when you can be in this house without trying to run it. She didn't like the terms, but terms are how you keep a door open and your dignity at the same time. It's a start. Like one painted star. People think the strongest thing you can do is shout. It isn't. The strongest thing I did in a soft voice, in my own dining room, with a sheet of paper in my hand and my daughter holding my other one. There was no vote. There was a deed. And the deepest lesson I carry from that Saturday is this. A boundary is not cruelty. Silence is not the same as surrender. And the people who mistake your kindness for permission are simply the ones who have never seen what your kindness was protecting all along. A house has one name on the door. So does a mother's love. That's my story. One double shift, one stripped room, and one quiet sentence that put a whole house back in order. If it reminded you to protect what's yours without ever raising your voice, share it with someone who needs it. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
That is the kind of drama we tell here on Calm Live Stories. Stories where family betray each other over money, love, property, inheritance, pride, and control. Stories where the person everyone dismissed finally reveals the truth. Stories where the ending feels satisfying because the right people finally see what they refused to see before. If this story made you angry, emotional, shocked, or satisfied, then you are exactly where you belong. Subscribe to Calm Deep Stories for more emotional drama stories filled with betrayal, secrets, revenge, karma, family conflict, and unforgettable twists.